Good evening, everyone. I am unfortunately on my screen. I cannot see who all have joined, uh, but good evening to everyone. So no worries, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the opportunity, Anuj and the team at Amity. I'll actually, I'm a very practical guy, so I'll actually talk about the real stuff that happens in the market versus what is being taught. Uh, so I'm a very strong advocate of case studies. So this session is only going to be two classic case studies, no, zero theory, no theory at all. Starting up, the headline is Beyond the 5 Ps, obviously of Philip Kotler. So they taught you about product, place, price, positioning, etc., etc. They tell you to get everything right. But the question is, what is right? Is there a benchmark? Do people really, in the paperwork that they do, are really able to do that benchmark? Uh, Unfortunately, that is where the problem is. The rest of the stuff is just a simple process. So Philip Kotler and everybody else do talk about getting a lot of things right. Very few people talk about getting the benchmarks right first to really connect with what is there in the market. So these two case studies I have will talk about benchmarks and how do you connect to the ground before you go ahead and talk of the big MBA stuff. Now, in fact, half of this presentation I taught this at MIT, and the other half is what I taught at Stanford. So I just mixed two pieces together and put it here. So let's go to the second slide, which is basically, how to bake a cake. So well, as a part of an MBA program, it is very important that all students should be taught how to bake a cake. That is the most critical piece. So the other thing is, what people really forget, especially the MBA and the engineering students, is they try and imbibe what their bosses are saying. Bosses cut the cost, they'll cut the cost. They says do whatever, get it done by evening, they'll try and get it done by evening. They actually forget A, the product, and B, what they forget is the customer. So the game is very simple. If you forget these two things, the product and the customer, and you try and do everything right as per your boss or as per the needs of the organization, as it is said, immediate imperatives, you might actually be in a much worse state rather than where you are now. So that is how we would say how to bake a cake when you talk about the MBA program. And in this particular program, we actually did bake a cake. So let me explain this. So there was this company which was big time into chocolate sauces and chocolate industrial products. Let me summarize it in those two lines. Very big into sauces and industrial products, and the name of the company is Hershey's. So everybody knows the Hershey's sauce. Now, all these food companies, they operate on a 7-year to 10-year timeline. See, when Kellogg's came to India, they said for our cereals business, we expect to be profitable in 8 to 9 years. So for 8 to 9 years, your eating habits have to change. Instead of eating an aloo paratha in the morning, you have to switch to a cereal. And obviously that will take time. Not that easy to accept. In this scenario, Hershey's wanted to get into the health business. And they have been debating this for 35 years. How to get into the health business. And during my MIT days, as a part of my final dissertation, I was given this task of, it was considered to be the most unholy of the tasks to be given. There were two teams formed, Team 1 and Team 2, and we had to present. How can Hershey, problem statement was, how can Hershey get into the health domain and also stick to their core business of chocolate. Now, chocolate basically means chocolate and sugar together to eat. Well, what we said is, we said three things. Let's look at the ecosystem. Let's look at the problem statement. Before we look at the ecosystem, before the problem statement, let's look at the ecosystem first. Then let's look at the problem statement, and then let us look at the solution that we might offer. And obviously the solution is you yourself, because anyway, you could be a part of the industry, correct? You could be a part of the consumption industry, you could be part of the production industry, either side. So look at the problem statement, look at the ecosystem, and then you look at yourself. And that's what we did. Eventually what happened was, team one, which was a few Americans and a couple of British guys, their assessment was their cake was, it was a fake flavor. It was bleached flour. It was fake sugar, fake oil, palm oil. So palm oil, cheapest of the oils. But it looked fabulous. There's no doubt about it. It looked so good. It was fabulous. And that was their cake. And they took about 1 year to get to this understanding and to be able to bake their cake. Well, that was them. The cake was fine, but then the one thing they did not do is they did not really look at the consumer or the customer. Customer is not a customer; he's a health conscious customer. So their understanding was that if this piece of cake that they offer will give him 27 calories, the customer will think that he's very happy that he's had a cake, it is a chocolate cake, and it's only 27 calories, and that is what is going to make him happy. And that was the translation of health versus calories. Our cake was slightly different. Our cake was 100% original flour, 100% original chocolate, 100% original food products, no chemicals, no dyes, and we were 330 calories per chop. So every chop, we made a mold which could show you the ribbons, and every chop was 330 calories. Now we are actually at the other end of the spectrum versus the other team. So now even our professors, a lot of other people who debated could not decide what is right. It was exactly poles apart. Our submission was very simple. A, you have to look at the human being first. Forget the cake. So for a lady who gets up in the morning, her daily calorie intake has to be about 1600 calories. For a person who is about 140 to 160 pounds in weight, his minimum intake for the day has to be about 1800 to 1900 calories. Around 2000 is ideal for him to maintain his weight and keep up the energy level. Well, we said 330 calories in the morning as breakfast, maybe a banana to go along with it, makes it about 500, and a cup of coffee is the most ideal breakfast. So why do you want to make it light when you can make it the best and the most ideal breakfast? Well, 3 months of debate, eventually even Hershey's accepted that if they give a product which is 100% original, suppose it does not work for some reason, still the product was genuine, so they will take no hit, no impact on their brand value. The product was good, did not work, that is fine. If the product was a fake product, the media will go to town citing their failure. Well, that was one. The second thing is on the psychological aspect. See, anybody who is in the health domain, this person is, driven by will and driven by his desire to remain healthy. He's not a scared guy, to be honest. He wants to stay healthy because he simply wants to stay healthy. That is his intent. So now, if his intent is to stay healthy, you have to give him the right food. They spend millions trying to get the right proteins. How can you give them a fake flavor? You're taking them for a ride. Well, so eventually, when they did the customer feedback and analysis, so our cake was it left no bad taste in the mouth after eating it. Now, understand what I'm trying to say. Psychologically, the customer knew, right, that I've had a good product to eat. So this mental satisfaction was the biggest contribution for his, state of mind to remain under control. Because if he knows he's had something fake, back of his mind in his subconscious, it will continue to fiddle around. So when you are feeding somebody, the taste part is one, his state of mind and his psychological satisfaction has to be supreme. When you smell a genuine cake, see, if you look at your brain, cocaine and sugar hit the same part of your brain. So given him the right level of sugar, you give him chocolate, and you given him an honest, clean product, there is nothing more you can give him. That's the bottom line. See, the point to debate here was that, okay, we might be wrong, the other guys might be right, but in our case, did we leave out anything? Is there anything more that you can give him if you are talking of a chocolate cake? The answer is no. And that's how we scored over our peers. We got a 96% approval rating from about 20,000 people. And that was our score. The other guys got about 60-70%. They failed because the passing marks were 80%. So that is how we did bake our cake. The learning from this entire process is, you have to understand that there is a conscious and then there is a subconscious. The entire game that we play today is more to do with the conscious, and we think the subconscious will get taken care of on its own, which is not true. When you talk about, I've tried to couple this to product management and product configuration side, but for the MBA students and the engineering students, they need to remember there is a subconscious also, not just the conscious. So don't try and fake it. Keep it real, keep it simple, and that's the best way forward. So if you are on rock solid ground, things are good. Well, so that ends my first submission to the team. I hope I've been able to keep the message simple and sweet. So people, whenever they are making a plan, doing the math in their business or in their, they will remember the cake. And so if you are making a cake which is fake, the results prorated might be very similar. So in life, remember, how are you baking your cake? That is what I wanted to communicate. Just wanted to keep it slightly simple. I hope I've been able to put my message across to the team. If I have, thank you guys. If I have not, no, please do throw all the brickbats. They're all welcome. I really found, see, of the 99 patents I filed, that is the simple approach I have had, so to be able to really make it happen. And once people know that you are on simple and solid ground, then, even when you are not there, you will still be trusted. Even behind your back, you will be trusted. So that is the critical part. Anuj, shall we move forward or?
Sir, we can move forward, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so now the next piece is slightly tricky. Now, the way it works is, So I always teach this, and this is again part of the 5 Ps. Uh, Now, see, I will actually name the brands also so people understand what I'm trying to say and why. See, in the Indian television market, there was a dealer, it's on your screen, you can see it, who bought an LG television from the company for a net of 13,000 rupees. LG gave credit when it started in India. So everybody else was giving credit, but not LG. And he buys it for 13,000. So there's nothing hidden in this. And he sells it for 12,800 rupees. And home delivery and still makes a profit of 50 rupees. That, gentlemen, is how the real market works. The 5 Ps of Kotler will not help you here. The 5 Ps of Kotler are just the ABCD of the game. Learning the 5 Ps does not mean you are able to write Shakespeare, understand Shakespeare. So this is classic marketing Shakespeare, and this is how the real market works. I'll explain this situation again. He buys it for 13,000, sells it for 12,800. Now here, selling for 13. A company's dealer is selling it for 12,800. So what happens is all the other dealers of the company end up buying from him rather than buying from the company. And it's all tax paid. Tax paid on the bill, tax paid incoming, tax paid outgoing, payment by check, or bank transfer, and you pay and carry. There is no credit, correct? And you still make a profit of 650, right? And the free home delivery might have costed you another $100, and even that cost you are able to take care of. This is how the real market works. Now, tell me, whatever you read in your marketing books and subjects and your finance programs, right? Is there a single case study which really helps you, enables you to understand this market scenario? Any questions, any thoughts from the participants?
Dr. Chal, I think what we can do is that we can take the Q&A at the end of the presentation.
Yeah, but then at this point, the question needs to be asked, and that is why I am asking that question.
Absolutely. So we have
The
panelists.
intent.
Any thoughts, our panelists, that you may have on what Dr.
Thank you.
Chal just shared?
Yeah, Gaurav, the intent here is, yeah, Pawan Kumar, he didn't understand the profit. I'll explain it again. Good, thank you. See, the intent here is I want people to start thinking, correct? And thinking from the real perspective. This is exactly where our faculties and students lack. This is exactly what they lack, and that is the reason I only took up this instead of teaching you guys how to make a nuclear bomb. So that's the reason I took up this very specifically. This is exactly what our faculties lack. And there's a gentleman, Mr. Pawan, who just did not understand the profit. So Mr. Pawan is very simple. He buys it for 13,000. I know the mathematics is slightly on the other side. Sells it for 12,800, but he also makes a profit of 650 rupees. That is the hard fact. Okay. So I want all of you to think, all the faculty members, students, the smart boys and girls of Amity. It could be any specialization. I keep on talking of MBA, but could be any specialization. Market works, right? So
if I could have a go at it, sir.
yeah, go ahead, yeah, shoot, guys.
Is
You're
it something to
allowed
do
to
with
make all the mistakes.
is it something to do with the incentive being offered by the company on the numbers?
Net price. I said net price, 13 net, no incentives.
Yes,
Good try, very good thought. Good start, very good start.
thank you, sir.
Okay, so we'll get to the next. So the next slide is, Please understand the market dynamics. And this is what your books will never teach you. You know, I've taught MBA, I've been a vice chancellor of one of the good universities, a very large medical setup. Same problem with every segment. And I'll give you a small example, not criticizing people, but telling you of the basic thought process of how disconnected people are with reality, and the educated fraternity is disconnected. So just trying to help you understand that. So at Rama University, where I was a vice chancellor, we had these, we also had PhD in medical programs. So people who could not make it to the MD program would do as a postgraduate, rather than being a MBBS and an MD, they would do an MBBS and a PhD. So there was this lady who worked on the PhD program for 2 years on prostate cancer. And then when it came to clinical material, which is actual real-time case studies, we asked her, I said, where are you going to get clinical material? Because at Rama, we don't do cancer, A. B, prostate cancer we've never done in 10 years. So where are you going to get your 140 samples? People who you study on and put in your paperwork. And after 2 years of research, he was hopelessly lost. Should have thought about it before she started. Now, if you don't do clinical material, how do I give her the degree? Because she's not done the real research. Fake it. Same thing here. Please understand. Now the television is bought for 13,000, sold for 12,800, profit is 650. Now there are three people. The company guy. Now what does the company guy want? The company guy basically wants A, his product to be sold, and profitability and market share. So what does the dealer want? The dealer wants profit and volume. Both things multiplied by each other. What does the customer want? The customer has got a desire. He wants to buy a certain brand of television at a certain price point. So three separate elements. Is that correct? Everybody understands?
Absolutely.
I can't see a yes or a no, or somebody throwing an emoji at me or a stone or something, but I'll try and move forward.
I think we have a couple of responses, Dr. Chahal, by our faculty members and students, which they're contemplating that it could mean that the cost of the TV is inflated. Mr. Anil Kumar Chaudhary says it could be because of the volume of sales. And Dr. Silki Sharma says that in the books, it could not be the reality, or the financial statements could be manipulated.
Okay. So, gentlemen, all this that you are telling me is okay, might be a possibility. But in this case, it is not. A financial statement cannot be manipulated because he's bought it for 13, he's paid 13. So what is he going to manipulate? Correct? I'll explain. But please understand, you have to understand the three segments in the market. There are three players. See, three vertical columns: company, dealer, customer. After this, of how financial manipulation happens, I will do that. So you are able to map and difference. But in this particular scenario, customer, dealer, company, and they've got their own, their goals. Everybody's got their own goals. So now what happens is, please understand, in a market, there's a brand called Videocon, there's a brand called Onida, there's a brand called Sony, there's a brand called Panasonic, and then there's a brand called LG. Now all of them have got a certain market share. Understood? So if 100 people come to the market, if Sony has a market share of 30%, 30 Sony televisions will get sold. Correct? Because that's the market share of the brand. If LG has a market share of 25%, so out of the 100, 25 LG televisions will get sold. That's the standard. That is what is called market share. Because if they are selling 25, that is why the market share is there. So historically, if you stack it, like Maruti has the maximum market share, and then you have the other cars, correct? Similar televisions have got a market share. So now, due to this market share, a certain amount of cash gets generated, which goes into the same box. See, the dealer does not have a different box for cash, which is generated by sales of different products. It goes into the same box. Now, here is the common factor. The cash is in the same box. So you might have sold 10 brands, the cash is in one box. Okay. Now, what Videocon did was, they were very smart. Instead of the month end being the 30th of the month, when the company comes and settles the account, they moved their month end to the 25th. Right? So on the 25th, the Videocon guy would, the dealer had. So by the 30th, when the other company guys would come, there's nothing left. But then still, where does the differential, the delta comes in? So the reason why this delta came in was very simple. 23rd of the month, the Videocon guy would come and tell the dealer, I don't care when the billing happened. And this was one major, tectonic shift in thought of operating your company. See, what other companies would do is they would say billing happened on the 10th, cash discount is available only for 3 days, blah, 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 all that stuff. And LG said no cash discount, cash and carry. Videocon said, why does it really matter whether the stock is lying in my godown or the dealer's godown? It has not gone to the customer. So every 23rd of the month, the Videocon guy would come and tell the company, the dealer, in the next 2 days, irrespective of when the billing has happened, whatever money you give me, I'm going to give you 10%. So now the dealer on the 23rd, the 24th, and 25th is only buying cash. He is not selling the product. He is buying cash. Product is getting sold on its own. When he buys cash, there's a cost to buying it. So what he does is, to buy cash, he offers the product at 200 rupees less. So to buy 13,000 rupees, he loses 200 rupees and buys 12,800. Now that cash which he has bought, which has gone into the same box, is sold to Videocon, where for 90 lakh rupees, he gets a credit of 1 crore. So what we are all forgetting in this entire chain is there are two pathways. Product gets manufactured, is sold to the dealer, is sold to the customer. But why do you forget the other? That is what the trade markets are across the world. So they brought that learning to the local operational market. Now, the outcome was very simple, right? Now think of the outcome. The dealer has given all the cash to Videocon. So he's got no money left to buy LG. He's got no money to pay to Sony. No money left to Videocon has hijacked everything. What Videocon does is that they load the dealer's godown once again, during this transaction. So he's got no place to stock. Now, on the 30th, the 1st, or the 5th of the month, when a customer, an LG customer, comes to the market to buy an LG television, there is no stock. And what the dealer says, sir, LG production is not available. But the reality is, the dealer does not have money to buy it from LG and give it to him. So now what Videocon has effectively done is, the best product, best positioning, best price, best technology, they've created a block which cannot be defined by Mr. Kotler, right? Wherein it cannot reach the customer. So 10 days a month, by default, LG stock was always out of stock. LG and Sony were never available in the market. And the only thing that was selling was Videocon. And they did this for 3 years. And for 3 years, LG and Sony were so up in their minds that they could do nothing to break this logjam. They could do nothing at all. It's only when Videocon went bankrupt because of the Doots, different reason altogether, that the other brands became comfortable. But for 3 years, this is what happened, and it happened month on month, month on month, right? That they were buying. So here, LG is a company which is trying to manage the price, of their product, which is very respectable and good. And here is a different player, because of his own dynamics and his own strategies, have taken everything that you're doing. It's gone for a ride. So gentlemen, again, coming back to say the same thing. In the other story, we baked a cake as far as the product was concerned. Here, we baked a cake as far as the cash flow is concerned. What we always forget is, when we go to the market, the cash we give to the guy, is not just the cost of the product. It carries much more value. There's a lot of, ways in which cash can be used to generate cash. So when you're planning your business, and I'll give you a very good example for the same reason. We all hear about Flipkart burning 200 to 800 crores every quarter, right? And continuously Amazon is burning cash, and Flipkart is burning cash, and yet they continue to get funded again and again. Did you ever before e-commerce came in, hear of a logic that a company which is losing money, burning cash, losing money, burning cash, losing money, burning cash, is being revalued and revalued and revalued, and they're getting billions and billions and billions? You know why? Because they are not selling product. They don't care what product you buy or what price you buy it at. E-commerce is not about selling products. And that is what I want to tell everyone on this call, including the students. Gentlemen, e-commerce has got nothing to do with selling a product. Now, if you can figure that out, you can build the next multi-billion-dollar company out of Amity. I know Amity's got a lot of initiative, a lot of good people, a lot of focus in the development center. But if you can focus on this particular problem, that it is not about selling the product, correct? The next multi-billion-dollar e-commerce venture could be from Amity. So bake the cake. So thank you, guys. That's all I had to say. Any questions? Anything else? Always welcome, please.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Vasin, I was just about to call out your name. So please go ahead.
So good evening, Dr. Chahal. It was a fantastic presentation that you have made. One thing that I would like to understand from you is very, very specific to the last sentence that you made with regards to Flipkart and Amazon.
Yes.
My question is specific to what Amazon is doing in United States of America, where they managed to get maximum revenues, which now they are investing in rest of the world to help us hook on to their platform. And I'm specifically talking about their initiative of manufacturing goods under the brand name of Amazon Basics.
Yes.
Now, while you were making a presentation, I was doing my research simultaneously. And Russ Roberts of Stanford University has published, he's heading the economics division of Stanford. He's published a paper where he's specifically talking about how Amazon Basics is becoming one of the largest selling brand on Amazon in United States of America. So when you're specifically talking about players like Amazon and Flipkart not selling products, well, Amazon has actually challenged that particular perspective because they were not selling products for a long, long time. But now what they have started to do is they have started to understand what exactly is being sold on their platform, and they have created their own product under the brand name of Amazon Basics, and they've started selling it. Of course, they are using their marketing strategy of pushing that particular product up in the search so that people end up buying that particular product. So this has happened in India as well. when I want to buy Duracell, I end up buying Amazon basic batteries. So, what's your take on that?
Flipkart billions also, they've got their brand too.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll answer this question from perspectives, but don't mix the two, right? Please don't mix in fact, three perspectives, sorry, but don't mix the three. It could be either of them or all of them together. See, the first thing is, uh, all of these people, like Flipkarts of the world and everybody else, they are always under pressure from their investors. All of them, huge pressure. So the reality of the fact is that they always have to have some new story to sell. Every quarter, they have to have some story to sell to get more money. They got to put up something or the other in a spreadsheet cooked up by a chartered accountant, just like Enron spent 60 million on educating the Indian politicians, right? They have to show something or the other to save themselves. If you see the pressure, the operating pressure under which these guys operate, and I'm talking from a psychological perspective. No, I'm not trying to be, not trying to crib over this. I'm just trying to help you understand the psychological perspective. The pressure these people are under, they have to sell some story. So therefore, they've done brands, they've done discounts. Now they have their own brand, and then they have services, and then Flipkart and all these guys, and Uber also started the Uber Eats, and you know how successful that was. But then Uber was under pressure, the CEO was under pressure, so he had to show some add-on value addition to the business, right? And obviously build a spreadsheet where it shows a few more billion being added every year to the bottom line. Well, that's one part, and that is the operational perspective of what really. The second thing is, when you take your own brand, you save about 20 to 25% the cost, because you less overhead, one less toll. So a major reason why these guys are able to connect. See, again, because you can look at it in India, and Flipkart Billion is a decent product, not bad, not good, but piece at the online piece. This is a major issue which the other brands face. So in the brick and mortar segment, if they have an X price, and if in the e-commerce segment they have a Y price, there's always a clash and the dealers pushing back. So Reliance Retail has come up with a very simple policy. You go to Reliance Retail and you show them a product from any brand, which is cheaper online. Sounds like Sony, they want to manage their own brand, they want to have their own segment, and they want to build their own USP, and they don't really want Flipkart to be the reason why they sell. They want Flipkart to be, see, the question is enablement or enhancement. So they don't want enablement, they only want enhancement. Okay, so if we are on Flipkart, we get more volume, that's it. Enablement, they don't want to give away to all these online e-commerce shops, and that is why, to get their hands on enablement, they've launched their own brands, because now they own it end to end.
Absolutely, Mr. Chahal, and that's where your last statement that you had made leaves some bit of gap in my understanding of when you specifically spoke of why these brands are not selling products. So actually, Amazon is doing exactly that. Flipkart, as far as Flipkart is concerned, sir, my study of Flipkart has been that when Bansals decided to launch this particular business in India, they were very clear about one particular thing, which was they created the business to sell, which simply means that they wanted the valuation so that they can sell it to another player. And in all probabilities, they were looking at Amazon, because both of these guys were working with Amazon at one point in time. And same is the case with Big Bazaar also. When Big Bazaar was launched, and in fact, this has been mentioned in his autobiography. I'm talking about Bayani's autobiography. He specifically mentioned that he created the business to sell, which simply means that he was just waiting for Walmart to get into India, and then he would sell his business to Walmart and get a excellent. Are you there, Mr. Chahal? Hello.
So his video is gone, so but I think audio is there. Yes, he's back. Sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
So
I can hear you, sir.
Sure.
Please.
Sure. So, when you're specifically talking about Flipkart, it's a business which was created to sell. And that's the reason why, when you look at the history of Flipkart, over the last 10, 12 years, the way venture capital funds have invested in the company, they have consolidated their position and then they have diluted their position and then again consolidated their position. It was, I mean, it's not like comparing apples to apples. It's something very, very different. But I appreciate your point when you were talking specifically about Videocon, where you actually pointed out one particular aspect of Videocon and how they changed their billing cycle, and it completely changed the way they were controlling the market at that point in time. Which actually leads me to another question. Uh, when you do a perfect analysis of the Sensex or for that matter Nifty, you would realize that close to about 70% of profit is being generated by just 10% of the companies listed on Sensex and or Nifty. Now, when you do an analysis of these 10% companies, you would have companies like Asian Paints, you would have companies like Pidilite, HDFC Bank, Axis Bank, and the likes. All of these brands, they stand for their governance practices. So what do you have to say about Videocon trying to use some gaps in the market and trying to capture the market at that point in time versus a player like Sony, which was more interested in selling their brand without disturbing the workings of the market? Now, I'm basically talking about the ethical issue rather than anything else. So, if you could just throw some light on that as well.
Sir, so, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So let me explain this, sir. Moving your month end and pushing. See, there are two strategies in the market: push and pull. Then there are intermediaries in the market, which are the influencers. Now, the Videocon strategy was push. The Sony strategy was pull. Right. The Videocon strategy was push because the perception of the customer that the international brands carry a better technology, product, and a better image. Whereas Videocon was equally good at that time. They were Toshiba, to be honest. But the question is, how do you get over the image problem? It is actually very simple. I am not trying to tell people to judge. I am not trying to tell people to to go the ethical or the unethical way. I am just telling the students to understand the market, to understand what others do, and to also understand, how bad or how good can it really get. Because when you're out there, blame the sun for being hot. You need to have an air conditioner in your car, and so all I'm saying is people should understand and learn from what has happened. I'm not trying to tell you to have a business, imbibes a supposedly unethical approach, but the question is somebody else might. So how are you going to save yourself? That's the reason why.
So, absolutely. So that is the reason why when we teach a particular course, we generally talk about ethics more than anything else, because ethics is going to take you to much greater heights over a long term period. And that is exactly what I tried to explain it to you when I was talking about how 70% of the profit is coming from just 10% of the companies. These companies have been. Uh,
10 to 20% is good. 80% is managed. So, and we have repeatedly seen that.
I was the CXO of Standard and Poor's in India. Before I walked into the education sector, I was the CXO of Standard and Poor's in India, and I understand ratings agency inside out, because I was a member sitting in the board to actually rate specific papers that were coming to us. And this was exactly after 2008 debacle, which everybody is aware of. And when you're specifically talking about rating agencies, I mean, I am very, very passionate about,
Professor,
yeah.
Professor, I'll give you two small inputs from my end.
Yeah.
And good that we are having a debate. So, A, and your agency, because you were the first to downgrade the US rating, for which Standard & Poor had to take a lot of flack, if you remember the days.
Yeah.
Right. So good. That was a very good move. It was, in fact, it was only Standard & Poor which did that. I categorically remember that, and it was literally setting up the Congress on fire, which is excellent. So thank you, sir. Thank you for being a part of that great setup and for having had the courage to take. The second problem is, and I'm just slightly elaborating it from an Indian perspective, as far as ratings and everything else is concerned. Sir, now I'll give you a small example. I'm trying to do a startup. I need about $2 billion. I've been funded thrice in my life earlier. I've already done 5 large startups, 3 of them. Despite that, when I came to India, despite the fact that I am a scientist and I have the technologies available, and the technologies I have are backed up by very strong companies like Toshiba Japan and certified by them. And the battery technology we have for our electric vehicles. So Professor Basin, since the Amity group is here, everybody, I'll give you an example. I'm selling my electric scooter for 10 rupees. That's it. No hidden cost. A real scooter, it's not a toy. I'm selling it for 10 bucks. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to block 30,000 rupees on your credit card or with a finance company. We're not going to draw it. We are not going to take the money away. We're only going to block that limit. So just in case if you default, we draw that money. Zero cost to you, sir. I'm going to sell my electric scooter for 10 bucks, my electric car, which is ICT enabled, for 500 rupees. 3 paise per kilometer for the scooter you drive. You don't have to own the battery. You don't have to charge the battery. Any issues or any problems with the battery, I own, right? And you get everything ready at your doorstep, and you have to go, right? So I understand the market. All I'm saying is the opportunities are huge. I again go back to the efforts put in by the Amity group and the fact that they've got such good people like yourself, that it is time Amity came out with a major company and a major startup, something on the likes of so many of the others. One major step that Amity can take is, the day before yesterday, I saw a list of Chinese startup companies, TikTok, Beauty Plus, and all that. Now, you could actually work with the government, shut them down, and have the Indian versions of all those companies for a start. Well, that's all I wanted to say. Now, there was a question here on the COVID situation.
Dr. Rashid, thank you so much. Hello, Dr. Rashid, there's a question from a student. I would like to get your insight on that question. It is, sir, please share some light on the startup of 5 million billion USD multi-billion USD businesses in e-commerce and technology, which you have incubated under your leadership. Which are these startups, as we as students would like to gain from your vast insight and be encouraged towards ideation? This is a question which a student who MBA students wants to know.
So Kavita ma'am, thank you for the question. I again answer it from a practical perspective. So now my first startup was a company called Click Agents, which I did it with my cousin called Gurbaksh. Now we had these, directories, search directories, Alta Vista and Lycos. Now the biggest game was how do you monetize them? So in those days, the IP, a lot of issues. Telecom was not that there. All the pages were static pages. So how do you monetize these? But what we did was there was a white space on the right hand side of each of these directories, which we took up. And we played the simple 80-20 rule. And the only information and input we had was where is the query coming from? So you can pinpoint it to a certain city, not even a locality. You could just pinpoint it to a certain city. That is all you could do. Even basis that 80-20 rule that we did, our search turned out better than the directory search. So people, instead of they would search on the directory column on top on the bar, but they would click in our box. Right. So that is how I started. So we sold that company to IBM for $30 million. That company today, I'm forbidden, but it is a part of the the Oracle G. Edwards program now. That's all I can say. Sorry. The second company is, see, if you remember this movie called The Imitation Game, Professor Alan Turing. So we saw this movie and we came back and we said, see, the question is, we all talk of, hacking the system, do this hack, do that hack, getting into your phone. In those days, we said, why should we get into the phone when we can simply find out where is the box and is it to? So in these days, you call it traffic analysis. In those days, we simply called it IP analysis, right? So we did the IP analysis. Basis that, we built a company called Blue Lithium, which today is called Yahoo Search. Obviously it has evolved. And year 2000, Google went dynamic, and year 2002, we sold Blue Lithium to Yahoo. The third problem was when British Telecom, I was in Ireland, and BT came and said, the entire world and everything that we have for the last 50 years, we've got copper across Europe, we've got copper across the UK. What do? Do we set it on fire, you throw it away, or do we shut down British Telecom? So that was the desperate situation inside British Telecom. They were seriously thinking of even exiting British Telecom, shutting it down, because no longer feasible to switch to copper, to fiber optic. So we built a box. Now this box is even in your house today, the set-top box, the one that brings you your internet, your telephone. So we built in data compression on a copper pipe. The maximum data that you can have is 2 Mbps. After that, it starts heating up. So in 2 Mbps, we built a program where we had 1:16 compression in those days. Now it is 1:64. We were able to offer you IPTV. We were able to offer you internet, and we were able to offer you your landline. IPTV came much later, but internet and telephone is when we start. That is how we started, right? So that is what your students should look at. Now, the next startup was, you remember your days when every Friday or Saturday or Sunday you sit, everybody virus aa gaya, virus antivirus run karo. Now you don't do that. Apps which where in the in a dynamic program, wherein before you launch the virus, it gets killed. So I sold that company to HP and IBM and Microsoft. Well, now I'll talk about what more can be done. And then there are other technologies and patents which I've done. But I'll basically make a simple, request to the Amity students. So, and I'll talk about two things here. See, the first thing is follow the Moore's law. Right? The Moore's law is so perfect that it has been true for its own self, that things will not remain after a certain point in time. So even Moore's law, because of its own prediction, has beaten itself down. So my question to the Amity students is, The glasses that you're wearing, they've been there for about 100+ years. What has changed? You still have the same glasses. So let's say if I was to take my phone, right, and put it in front of my eye, right, then I've got a full computer system and operating software, and my eye, which is a very sensitive piece of organ, right, its strength gets multiplied by the strength of this camera. And this camera today is even 108 megapixels very comfortably, right? And then once you put it here in front of your eye, look at the amount of processing that you can do. Look at the amount of data you can make available. And also the fact that when it gets in front of your eye, see, you are in the mountains, you can have filters. So you got bright snow, bright sunshine, your eyes can be protected. So yeah, COVID, Ashwin, I will just take up. Allow me 1 minute, please. That is my next. So all I'm saying is, look at the glasses. There's so much more that can be done. And for 100+ years, now basically it is said that any technology that comes in, the life is 40 years. The glasses have been there for 100. What has changed? So if you can think through and come up with a solution, you are immediately a multi-trillion-dollar industry, not even billions. Because the moment you have a digital framework, it will be connected, it will be an IoT. But now, further to this, what evolution can that evolution? So you will be able to answer the biggest question that how is this product going to evolve? If you simply answer that and build a case study of how this is going to evolve, trillions, not even billions, because they've already got a flat screen, they've already got everything here, touch, capacitive, so it's all there. But beyond this, nothing. So now coming to COVID. Okay, now this is a much simpler example. You guys will love it. So we said for our car, we are going to have the best air conditioner with the best air handling unit. Is that where you lost me?
Yeah, we lost you here only, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So, but engineers sitting in the office for 2 months doing nothing. So what do you do? So we said, now Kavita ma'am, obviously, you were and people like you were the focus group for us, and obviously students at Amity. So we said, children have to go to school. You can't have children staying at home, right? End of July, schools are going to open. The N95 mask that we talk about, the challenge is it's 200 to 400 rupees. You can't afford 800 rupees every day, right? The regular mask, the surgical mask, is not supposed to be used for protection, because it is actually the other way around. The surgeon should not infect the patient. That is what the surgical mask is for. And the life of a surgical mask is 2 hours. The life of an N95 mask is 8 hours. 8, no more than that. So what do you do? So we built this. Gentlemen, here, this is our first prototype. Okay. So the beauty of this is, now this has been built by car engineers, people who understand gases. So cartridge. You're talking of startups, so I'm actually showing you a startup product. So this cartridge, I'll talk about it. So first the mask, intake window, exhaust, right? And then on the inside, you got a silicone lip, right? Very comfortable to to manage and talk. And on top of that, the cartridge actually gives you, see, there's a particle filter on top, activated charcoal, true HEPA filter, N95 filter, and beyond this is a humidity filter. Now this cartridge, the life is 2 years. So instead of spending 800 rupees per day, this is going to cost you about 2,500 bucks. The life is 2 years, right? And so all you have to do is plug in the cartridge and you are good to go. And this is 1,000 times better than N95, because the silicone mold here covers your face and does not even, there's no space. You don't need a nose clip, 100% coverage. correct? And this takes, and if you Google today, the next product to this is priced at 75,000 rupees. This is 2,500 bucks, retail price, right? And the only reason I wanted to show you this, and the only reason I wanted to talk about this specifically is, I said, look at the ecosystem, look at the problem statement, look at your own self. So Kavita ma'am, if you have kids, right, or kids in your class, and even a couple of parents don't take care of their children, the entire class gets COVID. And you cannot live with a disease where the kill rate is 5 to 15%. Even if it was 0.5%, I can't live with it. For 1 to 2 years, there is going to be no cure. Obviously, you don't want to be the first one to get the vaccine, because you don't know what that vaccine is going to do, because the proper trials have not been carried forward. Correct? So is there a solution in the market? This is the only one. Comes out in the market 4 weeks from now. So when you talk of startups, look at yourself, look at the ecosystem, look at the problem statement. So COVID has given us 1,000 opportunities, to move forward.
So thank you so much for coming and sharing your valuable time with all of us here at Amity in our webinar series. Ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the end of this great session where Dr. Russell Chehal was talking about Beyond the 5 Ps of Philip Kotler. Very well said that marketing is an art and you have to be artists to be in the market. So all the theories that we have learned in the international books and classes can vary from situations to situations. 4 Ps, product, price, place, and promotion, varies from the individual self and the leadership and abilities of a leader, how he is going to take the business to new dimensions. It is well said, amazing things will happen when you listen to your customers. And the reputation and respect are also not built just in minutes. You have to be ethical, you have to be practical, you have to talk to your customers, your communication need to be fair. And with this, we give a big thanks to Dr. Russell for sparing his time and for his innovations that he has shown. I think it is going to give a new milestone to our students. And the case studies that you have analyzed today has opened a new chapter of understanding. And I thank on behalf of entire Amity faculty to you, sir. Thank you for coming and gracing your time. Thank you to all the panelists and faculty members who have shared their time with us. Thank you, Gaurav and Anuj. Thank you, IT team. And thank you to the Group Vice Chancellor of Amity University, who is a great leader, a great marketer, and a great innovator. Thank you, everybody.